What time is it?
Ask
your
aunties.
Hey. Let's see here. You got it, Jerrell?
I got it up.
Okay.
This is from Anonymous, and it says, "Hey, aunties, I've been with my boyfriend for 1.5 years now. At first, our sex life was amazing, but about 6 months into it, he stopped putting out. And the last year, I've barely gotten laid. I miss dick, and I'm in heat, and I need it. When I try talking to him about it, he says we'll do it this weekend or something of that nature, but it just doesn't happen. I love him more than anything, and I don't want to cheat on him. I was thinking to maybe approach him about an open relationship, and I'm afraid it's going to kill our relationship if I ask him about it. How should I handle this?"
Ooh.
Wayne.
Right.
Queenie.
Use a safe word. I don't. Honestly,
can't use it.
Right. Right. I really believe that transparency and honesty in a relationship is everything. And so I would, have a conversation with him, just let him know that something's missing, and you can't really pull from a deficiency. So you need to find out why he, stopped 6 months in, and why, it's something that you need and you miss. And it's really about communication. If you guys communicate what's happening, then you can kind of fix it and figure it out, because there's obviously something there. Or it may not be something there, and there's things that are happening in life that then kind of pull you away from the intimate parts, and you've got to find out how to get back to the intimate relationship that you have. I think that's my advice on it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback. I'll piggyback on that, and because I firmly believe that this is really a communication thing. I think that it's interesting that the default, solution is to talk about bringing somebody else into a situation where the sexual compatibility, at least right now, is not there. So I don't know how that's going to work. So that threw me for a loop. I would probably suggest not to do that. But more importantly, have a conversation with your partner about, what can you do? Because, listen, we're all in relationships, and that have been pretty substantial, and we all know that there are ebbs and flows, and sometimes they're hot and heavier than others, and sometimes there's a few droughts, and those aren't fun, but usually there's a reason for that, and I would start to look at and start to examine, what are all the areas of the relationship that you are, that could be the culprits, because a lot of times, sex is it's a health indicator of, what's going on with the context of your relationship. And there could be some outside things that could be impacting it, work, stress, things that are going on internally, whatever. There could be trust issues, that are unresolved, so, there's a lot to be examined, but I think, to Dwayne's point, it starts with a conversation first. And, I would highly recommend not suggesting a third, at least until you figured out what the root of the issue is.
Yeah, I agree. Especially it's only 1.5 years into your relationship. So someone that's been in it almost damn 9 years, there's just so many things you still have to go through in your relationship to ensure that's a solid foundation before you kind of open it up at that point. At least personally, I think. But I agree. Communication, I mean, that's honestly 99.9% of the issues in any kind of relationship in our lives is a lack of communication or expressing maybe even expectations and things like that. And it could honestly, I know you said maybe a health indicator just for the relationship. It could be literally a health indicator for the body, because maybe low testosterone and things like that, and your hormones are shifting or whatever it may be, literally affects your libido and things like that. So like a conversation definitely needs to be had. I know that you said he doesn't want to talk about it, but you got to keep on pushing, or it's just going to build up resentment. You're just not going to be happy. You're not going to be satisfied. So it literally is going to lead to you cheating potentially, because you're saying you're in heat, and you know what? Sometimes when you're in heat,
and now with summer right around the corner
right.
too. I mean, when people's clothes are coming off. I mean,
skies out, thighs out.
You know,
I mean, come on
for
now.
all we know, for all you hit on something pretty interesting, because for all we know, he could be taking Rogaine and his like libido is just like it's a side effect. Do you know what I mean? Like there could be some other things that are going on.
Absolutely, especially for just to kind of like, it seems like it kind of just out the blues went off. You know, so I don't know. And obviously, I think this came in during the pandemic, this question. So the pandemic has just done a whole lot of things to a lot of the relationships and just personal mental health and things like that. So I think a check-in is definitely in store. However, you could make it comfortable to have the conversation, like make his favorite meal, give him a bath. It's like, I don't know, but make it comfortable for him to maybe want to open up, because I think if you come a certain way, that you kind of instantly become defensive. And you don't, that's why he's like, I don't feel like talking about it. Like, especially when things like vulnerable about sex and things like that, if you come the wrong way, you definitely ain't gonna get laid. So
yeah, I agree with y'all. I mean, honestly, I think I may lean a little bit more into what Dawon was saying about like, you know, like that kind of sexual compatibility, you know, like it could be something along those lines. And you maybe just didn't realize, because that honeymoon phase is very easy to get caught up in that honeymoon phase when you first started. And like, oh, I'm booed up now. Like, one dick. You know, like I don't got to shop for it no more.
How you
one
like?
dick.
Ow.
One dick. You know, like you don't got to do anymore for dick, you know? So like, it's very easy to get caught up in that and miss having those type of conversations. But it also could be, I mean, you might have to ask him, real talk. Maybe he ain't talking because maybe you're ballet. I mean, that could be too. You know, he may be trying to save your feelings, you know. So, you know, back to like they were saying, communication. You're gonna have to figure out how to get that information out of him, because the problem could be you, boo. You may not be tight enough. You know, it may be tight enough. You may not be clean enough. You know, look, okay. Okay.
Conversation.
No, I'm cool. I'm good.
You want somebody to go?
No.
No. Ooh, I'm tired. Ooh.
Oh, look at the time. Y'all crazy.
But I mean, it's true, because like y'all said, you know, most of the time, not most of the time, but often when, you know, your partner's not putting out or something, like there's an indicator that there's something going on in the relationship, because it's emotionally there's something attached to it. And it could be along those lines.
You stink.
You just don't want to hurt your feelings. You know, he may be trying to battle his own demons, being like, how do I stay in this? How do I fuck you? You know, I'm just saying, like,
what do we tell people at the end of all of our episodes? Wash your
hands, wash your legs, and wash your ass. You right.
I mean, he might be trying to save your feelings.
That's interesting though. That's interesting because, I mean, I know we're joking and maybe not joking, but a lot of times we look at our partner or husband or whatever and think all the onus is on them, but they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it is something in us that we're like, what are we not? Maybe we're not like the episode where like morning versus night and things like that. You know,
I'm still embarrassed. What's the difference between morning sex and night sex? What you talking about, girl?
But it's just like maybe you gotta give a little more to make him comfortable, him or her comfortable. It's like if you like at night, maybe you just gotta do it one time in the morning when he's ready. Mm-hmm. And that shows that you're putting the effort as well into it to make your partner, your husband, your spouse, whatever, comfortable as well. So like that's an interesting point to kind of like look within and make sure that you're doing all that you can to get what you ultimately want, which is dick.
Look, I just walk around the house in my underwear just to check and be sure I still got it. But
like you,
Okay, you see me? Okay, cool. We good. All right.
like
Just to
like
make
you
sure.
doing now. You probably ain't got no pants on.
Bitch, I sure ain't no bitch. Ow. Show don't, bitch. Ow. Show don't. Show don't.
The day we don't do a drinking game.
Right,
Damn.
right. And community, you better watch YouTube because she stood up. She showed all the cake. So y'all watch this one on YouTube for real.
But I do feel like, there is another part of this whole equation. Like when it comes to sex, I mean, some people are just wired differently. There are some people that are wired to have sex and they're at the ready at any time. And then there are other people, and I'm not like that. I'm not wired that way. Like it's a production. Like you gotta
get the wig ready.
Okay, look.
The mood has to be right. I gotta feel it. But but some people, like I'm this way. If I feel like sex is obligatory, like we're just doing it just to do it, then I'm not into it. I'm just not into it. And my body will not like perform in that kind of way, So, there could also be is this a thing where your partner feels, wanted by you versus, that the sex is just an act to perform, because for me, it's the love making. It's an expression of passion. It's not just about getting it in and getting it done. Although there are those times and places.
I was about to say there are some times you're like, bitch.
Right, like
okay.
There are those times, but again, that's that duality. Like some people, I know guys and girls that can do it anytime, anywhere, 14 times a day, not even think twice about it. Doesn't even matter, right?
14 times. Wow.
I'm not wired that way, and I think that there are other people that, and we're probably in the minority. Like there's a lot of us that are just not wired that way, no matter how much we love our partners, no matter how much, like we, how committed we are in that relationship, etc. We're just not wired for just like the transactional sex. You know what I mean?
And it's hard to date someone like that because my last serious relationship, I was with this person for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. And it was very much that like, there was no way for me to keep with this person, and then we found ourselves, like trying to open a relationship because I couldn't keep up, and that's also what that was. Like, you were absolutely right. That's a real thing about someone's sex drive, just being literally in overdrive compared to, to the other individual.
I will say to Dawon's point too, I can speak freely about my partner and I. For me, sex was when I was single, it was something that I equated to love, unfortunately. And that's a lesson that I had to learn. And so then when I fell in love with my partner, sex was not, I didn't have to, because I had the fulfillment of the relationship and everything that I wanted in my partner. So then ultimately I'm like, all right, I don't need to put out or, try to search for it anymore. So I don't have to do the act, if that makes sense. Whereas his sex drive is like, why are we not doing it? And I'm like, but I don't need it. Because I have what I want, which is, I know that you love me. I know that I have the fulfillment. I have the satisfaction. I have the intellectual connection. I have all of the things that I need and I can maintain, and I don't necessarily need to have sex. So we've had to have several conversations in our relationship where it was like, okay, is everything okay? Like, why are we not? And I had to explain to him my standpoint, whereas I understand that you need it. This is that you love the activity, whereas I am totally fulfilled with the fundamentals of our relationship, if you will. I don't need the sex, because again, my perspective or my experience prior to was I had sex to fill a void. And that void was not having, having the companionship and the love and all of the things that I really, really wanted. So I was like, oh, I guess I can just do it with sex, but I'm still not going to be fulfilled at the end of the day. But so we've had to come over that hurdle a few times where we've had to check in and say, okay, hey, are you good? I'm good. Oh, okay, well, let's do it. Okay, we're good. All right, you know.
And that's something that needs to
Yeah.
be more normalized, is the fact that more couples actually have to have that conversation about, hey, it's been a while, you know, like everyone thinks it's like in this movie, you like in the porn, here's a pizza. Like, you ain't ordering pizza every damn night. I know that shit. Like, you know,
because
like,
as much as Corey cooked, you would be thinking we out here.
look, okay. But you know, like having those conversations and like, and it's not about necessarily like planning it, but it's just about having the conversation of like, hey, this is a need that I need a little extra right here. And it's not that someone isn't doing, it's just that, you know, one individual may need this at this moment, and like, hey, this is what we do. This is us.
And that's a maturity level too.
Yeah, you
That's
know,
a maturity because if you still equate sex as solely love, there's always going to be a rift there, because like you said, you're trying to fill this love void with solely that, and there's not going to be a way to just, you're not going to get enough love. You got to see the big picture and the full picture of a life together with someone, or a life together with multiple people, whatever it may be. But if you solely only focus on that, it's going to be trouble in this relationship, the next relationship, the next relationship after that.
And you have to be able to do the work to say, hey, I have an issue or a problem, or what am I doing that, you know, is like, why am I having so much sex and I'm single? Well, what void am I trying to fill? You know, and I'm not saying this is everyone.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally,
Literally. You know what?
I'm filling all of the voids. I don't know which one I fill all. Yes, but you have to be able to do the work to identify, you know, where you are in that space and be able to articulate it. So you're absolutely right. It does take a mature person to be able to have that conversation, because ultimately, if I didn't do the self-work prior to know that that's what I was doing, then it ultimately would have created an issue in initially getting together.
Yeah, and we all have different sexual experiences too, and the only sexual experience that we have in common is what you have with your partner that you're actually having sex with. So when you put into, you know, what someone else may have had in a previous relationship, or how they view sex, and then you add it to yours, it's not going to align until you make it align. You know, it's not just going to be the same.
Yeah. And I think I'm glad that we're having this kind of conversation, because, you know, this obviously started out as an Ask Auntie question about a particular situation, but, you know, quite frankly, it's almost a given that gay men particularly are, you know, supposed to have just this hyper sex drive. And, you know, listen, you know, I'm just as sex positive as the next person. And, you know, I don't think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with a little bump and grind. But,
oh wait, no, that song's canceled.
Cancel.
That song's canceled.
I know.
Look, I gave a half body roll.
I caught myself too, girl.
Them shoulders went back and they came right back forward, like, no.
And, you know, it was at any rate, I couldn't even get the words out without having to go there, so I went there. So, but at the end of the day, there really isn't anything wrong, you know, or untoward about someone that has, you know, a very high libido and a very strong passion for, you know, for having sex, however frequently they want it. I think that the question of it is what about those, especially if you're partnered up with someone, what about that person? Are we having those conversations about, you know, about your sexual needs, and what do you, and what does that look like? And I'm going to coin it right now, so okay, nobody steal it. We have we have love languages, but we don't have sex languages. You know, and one of the benefits of having a love language is we can talk about how we express love and that kind of, and how we receive it. But, you know, when I think about like sex languages, I think about, you know, the fact that, you know, there are some people that, you know, that think of sex very objectively, right? So objectifying you, objectifying the experience. It is about a task being done, something being accomplished, something being achieved, right? And then and that's one side of the spectrum. Then on the other spectrum, there is, that emotional connectivity, where a person is wants to feel desired and wants to feel appreciated and wants to feel seduced in a certain way in order to make to have that kind of maximum sexual feeling, et cetera. And then there's all kinds of things in between. So I love the fact that I say all that to say that I love the fact that we're just having this dialogue. And for Anonymous that's out there, I think it's worth the conversation just to explore those particular options. And quite frankly, it will be difficult. This is a difficult conversation. They already said that they don't want to talk about it, but for the health of your relationship, you can't allow things to go, like sweep it under the rug and just pretend that it doesn't exist and then come back with kind of a Band-Aid solution. If at the end of the day you want to open up the relationship, then you just have to be honest with yourself to say that's really what you want, right? And you're using these other things as an opportunity to get you there, recognizing it may destroy your relationship, and that's a risk you may be willing to take. Get it, but
because you're not going forever without
own that stuff.
So
you know what I mean?
You're not, just
I would go into this conversation after you like jerked off or something though, because your heat mind.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying.
Because you're gonna get in your feelings real quick.
No, so, you're gonna get in them blue balls real quick.
Girl. So that's
blue cheeks.
If you ain't heard nothing else, get off before you go have that conversation.
Because that after come life is a whole different thing. You be disgusted at yourself. You be disgusted at you're like, oh, what I'm gonna do? Oh my goodness, why do I even go down this path?
Me.
The porno is still on.
Why are you breathing on me?
Why am I watching it?
What? Yes.
It's hot. It's hot. What the hell?
You still hear all the noises. You're like, oh, hold on. Like, look.
Right.
And usually it's on my phone. Got that Twitter burner account.
Look.
Like, oh, hold on.
The best is you're like, I need to be saved and sanctified afterwards. You done. You're like, oh, what did I do? Oh. Get rid of it.
Mother Mary, hail of grace.
Right.
Yes. Like, all of the above.
Like, where's that anointed oil at? Where's that anointed oil my mama gave me? But anyway, continue to send your Ask Yo AunTeas questions, aya@minorityReport.com, or DM us. You know how to find us. But we love these questions, obviously. And a lot of times it sparks other thoughts that might not have initially come to our mind. So continue to send that, aya@minorityReport.com.